Hello, peoples. It's time. We're back again. Our wonderful time that we try to do at least once every 2 weeks and have way too much fun doing it. I want to introduce, tonight's show is on Orpheus. Not just Orpheus, though. We're going to be getting into Geist and Wraith, and probably the Giovanni will pop up at some point, I have a feeling. So, I want to welcome our new guests. These guys are brand new to the show. Got to hang out with them a little bit before the show and really had fun. So, I want to say, Ken, say hi, man.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing wonderful. And Alan.
Hey, what's up? I finally surpassed my technological difficulties and am here with you now, apparently.
Yes. And of course, my wonderful co-host, Brother Eric.
Hey.
So we're going to jump right into this since we're running a little behind. So, Eric, ta-da, do your job.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I swallowed.
Did I catch you in the middle of a hit?
No, I swallowed wrong.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we should have finished before the stream.
No dying.
Yeah, I know.
Man.
I'm not allowed to smoke during the show anymore either.
Dude,
I've been told.
no. Seriously, no, Anyway.
You okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
doing good.
Good.
Let's continue.
My
What are we
official
talking
rules
about? Are
for
we
it.
talking about, like, ghosts and stuff?
Ghosts
Spooky
and
ghost
stuff.
games? Spooky ghost games, right?
And not techno songs.
So let's talk about Orpheus first. You're going to have to lead the way on that one. Mostly what I mostly know about Orpheus is that it was the first limited edition thing that they did, and most of it being written like a tabloid was really awesome to look through and read.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So, I ran Orpheus for 2 years, and I feel like me and Lucy and Solban are like the only people who actually did that. But I hope that I'm wrong about that because it really, really is an amazing game. It's like taking a spin on Wraith and making it, for one thing, much more accessible to new players. Because you start off a part of this, Orpheus group that's basically like this esoteric detective agency that has the power to use like ghosts technology or whatever, like wacko meters to talk to ghosts and whatnot, and you just go around and like solve ghost stories. So it's a little bit more approachable than your typical, oh my god, I'm dead, what the hell is the underworld, thing. So it's already more approachable, which makes it easier. It starts with a more limited scale of powers and things you can do, which makes it a little bit easier to approach. And the fact that they've got all the story stuff is really, really great. And it's not something you really realize until you start running it, but like that game made me a better game master. In each one of the supplements, as you go through it, each supplement starts with like a really critical, pivotal event that changes a whole bunch of stuff. And then they give
Maelstrom, yeah?
Yeah. But in each specific book, there's something that happens that's a part of that opens up a new chapter for the characters, and it changes everything for them, and it's all big and dramatic. And then there's a whole bunch of story seeds that go with it, and a whole bunch of like extra powers and different things that you can do. So rather than like having the characters lust over all these powers that aren't, that are in the book that are higher level and whatnot, they don't even exist until you come in with a later supplement. And they've got a bunch of different story ideas in there. Hey, try this one. Hey, try this one. Hey, try this one. And after a while, you don't even have to try too many of them before you're off the ground running and know what your story is going to be. And then as soon as your game is lacking, as soon as it's kind of like lackluster and you're like, yeah, we've done this a whole lot, like you can just throw in the next supplement and there's another big event that shakes everything up and makes everything interesting and keeps everything going. And I think that's the reason, and I was a little bit of a younger guy when it came out, and I didn't have a whole lot of games at that time. Like my groups always never had a whole lot of discipline or anything like that. So they get, all enamored by the next thing as soon as something come out. But we locked on to Orpheus, and we did it for 2.5 years. I say additional half year because we actually revisited and tried to actually finish it, which we probably would have been able to do if I had not extended out the ending and made it, way too epic and way too long. But, beginner's faults.
As an ST, you've got a grand story arcs are
bread
and butter.
Yeah, well, because as they said, I made the one mistake that you guys mentioned earlier they're not supposed to do. They say don't mix in the rest of the world of darkness, and I did at the end of it. And I mixed in the apocalypses of every single world of darkness because it was 2004 and that's what was going on. And it was a great story, but it was just too much, and people were moving and life was happening and all that sort of stuff. But it's still one of my most fond gaming memories of all time, and it's an amazing game. It's really slick. We never had any kind of crazy mechanical issues that we ran into. It's real, everything's self-contained, and it's an amazing game. I fucking love it. It's really underappreciated.
Yeah, most of the ghost lines tend to be a bit, underutilized. At least, unless it's a Giovanni Chronicle. And then, you get some shit. But, I mean, I really would like to, walk around in the Shadowlands and just do all kinds of crazy haunter shit.
I love that stuff. I honestly don't understand why people shy away from the ghost stuff. I'm and I see one of my players in my Tuesday game, is my normal Tuesday game, is oh, I never want to play a ghost. It has no interest in me. And I'm yeah, okay, I respect your choice, but I don't fucking get it.
Yeah, right?
That shit's amazing, dude. I love that shit.
Me and Ken, when we played Giovanni a lot of times we would custom make our wraiths. And since me and him always understood how the wraith system worked, and using the different powers becomes unreasonably bad for other types.
For non-Giovanni,
yeah.
Like that time I got 13 consecutive successes on slow time.
Oh shit! No,
the guy was in the hallway for in almost an eternity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's why the Giovanni exist. It's why they're alive. It's why they can survive. It's because they have these super powerful, fucking ghost thralls all over the place. And it should be a little bit busted because there's hardly any of them and there's tons of everybody else.
They tend to screwing with their own family members who have passed over.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Because those seem to be easier for them to summon than your average shade,
Yeah, that was, I think, Eric, wasn't that the storyline for mine? Because I had a Spectre. And it was my dead brother, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he required 5 fetters at all times. Otherwise, he'd eat my face.
Yeah, that's a few. No shit.
That's a lot to maintain.
So let's just hit on this real quick. You mentioned it being sort of like a serial, and I mean by that the old serials in movie theaters. Is that what we're looking at here with these 6 books?
Essentially, it is, because in each book there's a new chapter. There's something new and awesome. I mean, I can get into it. I mean, how spoiler do you want to get? I can give some of it away if it helps it make sense.
Oh, we don't worry about spoilers, dude. Knock yourself out.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, spoilers. So you work for this Orpheus group, and you're oh, I'm a detective. This is great. We're solving mysteries. We're making money. There's some intrigue. I don't know about the people who are in charge, who runs this place, just like watching Dollhouse. And then, the first thing that happens in the first book was, Crucible of Shadows, I think it's called, is blam, there's a big explosion at the lab, and Orpheus is completely destroyed, and you're on the run from the FBI.
Crusade of Ashes.
Yeah.
Why does it sound familiar? It sounds like something else. What was it? It has a vague touch of the Pentex or my brain is not pulling on that one.
You're talking about the group that must not be named.
Oh. Yeah. I didn't tell him that story.
Oh yeah. Every time you bring this particular organization up, our fucking podcast goes to shit.
Fair enough.
Well, I guess don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
I don't know what it is, but I won't try to figure it out either.
No, seriously. Think of it as the anti-mage group. How about that?
Oh,
that organization.
Right.
Because even if we mention it off the air, it still fucks with our feed. I don't know why.
Crusade of Ashes, I think, I'm pretty sure it was the first one. And it's like this whole it just throws a big wrench into everything, and your whole organization and your support is all messed up, and you're on the run, and it just like fundamentally changes. Like, I mean, you're still dealing with ghosts and you still do your stuff, but like you're independent, you're on your own now. And there's something like that happens in every book. That's some big thing that goes down, and then here's a bunch of like plot threads that happen because of that.
Here's my question: where on the power structure would you put it compared to the other books or the other genres?
Depends on how far along the sequence, the continuum you are. Because as you get going into it, the player characters start receiving essentially what equates to like echoes or spiritual successors of Charon's implements.
The ferryman? No.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's people who start to connect with essentially the mask, his robes, his scythe, his chains, and his lantern, and those different like you begin to gain the ability to manifest those different items, and when you start being able to do that, like shit gets kind of broke.
One of the things you've apparently forgot to mention, and I'm just bringing it up for clarification, is that all of these player characters are survivors of near-death experience.
They're either survivors of near-death experience, or they're people who have taken a drug that's a part of the game called pigment, or they're just people who are trained to do what they do. But it's assumed that even if you haven't had a personal near-death experience, that you've had like a lot of deaths in your life, or you were an undertaker, or something that you've somehow got death in your world.
Yeah, you're touched, and it allows them I guess they get, because of this near-death experience, it allows them to step across the veil into the.
And there's different ways to do that. Yeah, there's some of them you can do it kind of like the Frighteners, where you like lower your body temperature down, and then there's a way of doing it with meditation, and you can be a ghost at the beginning of the game, and there's a fourth option that none of my players took, so I forgot it.
See, I think that's kind of interesting, because that seems like those concepts were put into Geist and Slasher.
I think the guys pull a lot from Orpheus, big time.
Yeah. Well, Slasher, I'm saying, because when you are someone who hunts someone who's a Slasher character, you have to actually, sometimes you have parts of like someone who's psychotic's brain grafted onto yours.
Wow.
And so you can actually invoke like a personality disorder that gives you access to your ability to basically counter Slasher, which is weird.
So you get a little Dexter on.
Yeah. But with Geist, it's what school or whatever, not school, but like what you're choosing is dictated by how you die.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you die from, and it's based on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right?
Oh.
Right.
So like if you die from like starvation, or like famine. Natural whatever in the woods, you're under famine, or they add their variant of famine. And so it's, I don't know, I see a lot of this being replayed into Geist. It's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, they do rework and borrow a lot of ideas. I kind of, especially with Wraith, it seems, because of the lack of popularity, they figure they're not beating a dead horse, but reintroducing these same ideas over and over again, because if they're not popular, then there's nobody to complain they've used them too many times. But I do see a lot of that, and Wraith and Geist and Orpheus all seem to be like test beds also. I see, and you can see that in the meta plot. I don't know if you guys get into like multi-game meta plot stuff.
Yes.
But almost every major thing, and I'm probably beating a dead horse saying this, but like almost every major event, right, in the World of Darkness starts in Wraith.
Yes.
Right. There's something that happens in Wraith, and then you're like, oh yeah, and I remember like in the 2000s, like walking around predicting, to a certain degree, things that were going to happen, and people were like, no way, how'd you know that? I was like, I fucking read it in Wraith. You guys got to keep reading Wraith. What's the deal? Hello,
But the other thing is there's between vampire and mage, it actually had some interaction with the Shadowlands too. Like what caused the Sixth Great Maelstrom was the setting off of the Spirit Nuke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, you've got shit going both ways, and anybody who tells me that these games do not influence each other can just bite me.
Yeah, they're just dumb shits that haven't actually read anything, and they want to argue with you and be right, so they can be right.
No, most of the time, as I think I mentioned to you on the in chat, was that we don't care whether you agree with us or not. It's still fun, and controversy. Actually, if you can get a couple of people arguing with each other on the show, man, that winds up being one of our best shows.
Everybody loves it.
Yes.
Fuck you! I'm not arguing with anybody. God damn it! Fuck off.
Now I have a question.
No, fuck you.
Okay.
Question.
How does the mechanics of the actual expenditure of powers work? So with vampire, you spend blood, you spend rage for werewolf, etc. How does that work for?
It's been a long time. I can go get my book and look if you want.
Yes,
but I think
please.
It's like a pathos type thing again. Here, I'm gonna...
Oh, okay. So it's not like Shadow or no, that's different. My bad.
Well, because with Geist, it's the very similar thing where you have your archetype and whatnot, and you can only get your pathos back by enacting out your archetype. And so, and that's kind of how that would be metered out.
Yeah, it's like a vitality trait.
Okay.
That works probably just, if I remember correctly, because I ran this back when it first came out. I would run each supplement as it was released. So it's been that long, and I apologize, I don't remember it really well. Yeah, you use your vitality to empower horrors, and I think vitality is just a fancy word or a less fancy word, for pathos.
Okay.
But then there is a spite score that you get also that's how pissed off your fucking shadow gets.
Right.
Do you ever get issues with the the Ghostbusters situation? Ray, he slimed me.
As far as what,
well, I mean, granted, the whole World of Darkness is a game of personal horror, relatively speaking.
Right.
But comedy also has its place. You can't be depressed all the fucking time.
I remember when I was going through the Orpheus book, I remember seeing there being a little blurb about you can go ahead and go around and do a bunch of ghost busting, but these ghosts will actually bite you back.
Mm.
So it's
I mean, you certainly, from a metagame perspective, yes, any game has the potential to, have some comedy in it, and we probably had a few comedic, situations from time to time, but Orpheus really lends itself to a pretty fucking dramatic game. From the onset, you're a part of a shadowy organization that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, that you can't really trust, and then you're dealing with these ghost, haunting situations, and the example type haunts that they have, none of them are silly. None of them are haha, look, this ghost thinks that he's a dog, or there's nothing like that. It's always oh yeah, this person lost their child, and this ghost is going to try to kill everybody, and it's oh, and then it just goes downhill from there. The first thing that happens is your whole support network gets completely fucking destroyed.
Oh, they use the Arcanoi system.
It's basically Arcanoi, yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty much
you basically get ghost powers.
I guess, it's saying here, unlike Wraith's Arcanoi, which can be picked up with little regard of character's personality, it doesn't sound like Orpheus works that well using that.
Yeah, the different, sort of your kind of different subclasses are based on the kinds of Arcanos that you get. So if you're a Banshee, then you're going to have a Keening power that's really, really a big deal, and they've got puppeteer characters. So there's a little bit of breaking up the traditional Wraith powers into sort of classes. Now, ultimately, you can get the other ones that are outside of your little class or whatever. It's just that they cost more, like you would in Vampire.
Other than Wisp, the rest of these just look terrifying. the banshees and the
Oh, yeah.
poltergeists,
Yeah.
skin riders, which is sort of I guess that's
It's puppeteering.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's puppeteering.
Eric,
And,
you still with us?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, you got
Yeah,
anything you want?
Totally. No, you guys are just like having fun, man.
Yeah, I know. All right, guys. This is for the channel. I want to say hi to everybody who's joined us tonight. I appreciate y'all being here. New Wave and Into the Wilderness, of course, and one of my wonderful friends, Sabrina, who has just gotten a new job, by the way, and she's going to be moving in with her boyfriend soon, which is, she needed some joy in her life. She really did. I've known her for a very long time. And I think she was still a little gun shy from the previous marriage, but I think she's gotten over it. I hope so, because she deserves to be happy. So, if you guys in the Peanut Gallery want to ask any questions, please. So, back to what we were doing. We're going to go with the Geists. We're going to go through the shades here, okay? Is that good?
Sounds good.
All right, let's start with the Banshees. Give us a thumbnail.
So, like, the Banshees are, and it's been a long time, so I'm kind of having to look at my book to reaffirm myself as I'm looking at all of this. But the Banshees are likened, if I remember correctly, they're likened to, like, like all of, like, the desire to be heard after death is the gist. It's like they're real passionate and they've got a bunch of energy, and when they speak, they're heard, right? So much so that they can speak across the shroud, and they can, shatter things with their voice, and that, their will not be daunted, and all of that sort of jazz. We had, our group ended up being 3 players, and we had a Haunter, a Banshee, and a Poltergeist as a part of our group. And consequentially enough, the Banshee was the one who ended up being the wheeler and dealer. They're the one who ended up specking up a bunch of social stuff and talking with all the NPCs and making all the deals and telling the Giovanni to go fuck themselves.
Of course.
All that shit.
Okay. Thumbnail for the Haunter, since you've already brought that one up.
So yeah, the Haunters are Hunters in a way are kind of like the kids that I think of them as the kids that they're like trolls. They're like trolls. They love to stay in the background and not be seen, but still fuck with you and get shit done. So they've got this kind of like insidious spy vibe going on to them. Of course, it's based on your characters. You can spin it however you want. But the Haunters kind of go where they want, can't be bound. And kind of do what they want to do without being affected by others as best they can, because they have the ability to, fuck with shit across the shroud without you, knowing where they are.
Gotcha. All right. Poltergeist.
The poltergeists are, man, they're the.
It's just my Spanish Scottish pronunciation of that.
I thought it was funny, so I did it too. Yeah, the poltergeists. So they're pissed off. They're angry about being dead. They don't want to be dead. They're clinging on to life, and they will bash their way back into existence in order to make it happen. And they have all of the I can't remember what it's called in Wraith, where you can move stuff around.
Oh yeah, that's
anyway, outrage.
Yeah, go ahead.
Outrage. They can pick stuff up and throw things around and damage people, and then they have the ability to augment their physical attacks with, when they punch you, it actually hurts, and
ow.
They're the angry guys.
Yeah, I would think so.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Skin Riders.
Skin Riders are the puppet masters. They are the spider in the web. They are, control in its most manifest form, because that's all they do is they control people, and then they become them.
Oh, okay. I guess that their name kind of gives that away.
Mm-hmm. Most of these do.
Wisps.
Wisps are weirdos. They're just like, how in New World of Darkness they've always got the one group that's the odd man out. The Wisps are the odd man out. And They tend to be social. They tend to deal with prophecy. They tend to deal with arcane, weird, like occult stuff. They're just sort of the catch-all weirdo group.
Allowing them to manipulate the storm wall too. It says.
Yep. Yeah, they can just kind of deal with all the stuff you doesn't seem like you can deal with. So they can mess with the veil, and they can do like the whole prophecy stuff, and I think they can even mess with your like your vitality. I think they can do vitality.
Ooh, that would be bad. That would be really, really bad.
Again, it's been a long time. I apologize.
No, this is cool. Speculation's fun too.
Sorry about that, guys. I had to put Olivia to bed.
Oh, okay.
These things happen.
We will continue to keep going.
Right on.
All right, so Phantasm. As if that doesn't bring up some horrible memories.
Oh, I gotta go get my book for that one. I gotta remember.
Phantasm. This is one of my favorite movies, man. The guy with the tall man and the ball.
Tall man. Boy. I'm trying to remember his name.
I want to put that into a game somehow.
Angus Scrim. That's the actor who played the tall man. Just he's like what's his name? The guy who played Sean's stepdad in Shaun of the Dead. And then, of course, Charles Dance is also right up there on the creepy meter.
Phantasm, where are you?
It's in Shades of Grey somewhere.
Yeah, I've got the book. It's just... Oh, yeah, they're the Dream Warriors, man.
Oh.
They're the Dream Warriors. Yeah, they can go into people's dreams, manipulate things, do the whole,
the whole Freddy Krueger thing.
The whole Freddy Krueger thing, yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
And they can manipulate people inside of their dreams.
Oh, that would be bad. That would be really bad. All right.
We scared the crap out of some people with that stuff.
Oh, shit. This next one sounds worse than any of the above. The Orphan Grinders. It's a special shade that is made from former specters. Specters, dude.
Yeah, they're redeemed specters.
But
Orphan Grinders are redeemed specters.
Oh, so you can reverse the whole falling to the what is it called? Falling to the maelstrom.
Yeah, we're falling to the oblivion, to the shadow.
Shadow, that's it.
Yeah,
that's what I was trying to remember. And
so the Orphan Grinders are a great story element because it allows you to do what appears to be like the unthinkable and like take one of your cherished and favored PCs or NPCs, like not only kill them, not only like throw them over and have them lost in the underworld, but then have them fall to oblivion and then bring them back. And we actually did that with one of our NPCs in the story, which was, ironically enough, just a little incidental nobody from one of the little mission briefing things in the earlier books that blew up into a major character, and I had him become a Spectre and then get brought back as an Orphan Grinder, and he was a well-beloved character.
Nice.
So that's
this whole
story element.
That's a really good hook for a story, is the redemption story. That's always fun if you can pull it off.
Well, in a way, like Orpheus is about redemption stories from the beginning, because when you go in and you start doing these ghost haunting things, 9 times out of 10 it's some ghost that is misbehaving, for lack of a better term, and that you're trying to bring them around to not misbehaving, for lack of a better term. Whether it's through resolving their fetters or through talking to them and helping them let go, or whatever the thing is, they're a malevolent presence that you're trying to make not malevolent. So why not carry it on? Why not start trying to redeem like just over and over and over? So it's not just one like Orphan Grinder character that you can make. Like you could have a whole thing where your group is specifically organized around finding specters, finding out who they are, and then bringing them back to the light.
Oh, that could be fun.
Yeah. Could be a great game.
All right, here we go. The last group of shade is called Marrow.
Oh, I gotta look those up. Is that in Endgame?
Yes, in game.
That's fine.
You know, that's probably the first time in quite some time you've taken those books off that shelf, huh?
Yes, I'm happy to do so, though. It's
Right?
great. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to run this motherfucker.
Let's do it. I've been looking for a game I could actually enjoy. I mean, I'm kind of burned out on Vampire at this point. I'm not completely burned out, but I've been wanting to play Wraith. Or fucking Mummy.
Dude,
Mummy would be the shit.
The new Wraith 20 is so great, dude.
Haven't seen it yet.
Oh my god, it's fucking amazing.
Did they reconcile some of the old stuff that was broken in?
So I haven't gotten so far into it as to look at, broken versus unbroken stuff. But I have to say that I was pretty happy that they had guild exclusive Arcanos.
Oh, yeah.
Which was awesome. Yeah.
So the guilds still exist after the Maelstrom. After
yes.
after the cracking open of the labyrinth and everything, I thought Stygia fell.
Well, I think it did, but what Wraith 20 does is it sort of just bypasses that Ends of Empire.
Ah.
I think they pretty much just ignore that, which, if you want to keep the game going, I think...
Yeah, you kind of have to, don't you?
You kind of need to.
Okay. You find...
So, yeah, the Morrows were just like a last tag on. I don't think anybody in my group actually used them. And they're described as just being able to change their appearance and thus change their identities.
Oh, okay.
They're going to dovetail a lot with the in-writers.
Huh. It almost... I'm reading the description here on the wiki. They almost sound like Nosferatu.
A little bit.
And they also have the quote-unquote spirit version of animalism. So, yeah, that's right up there with, one of my descriptions of the Nosferatu. All right, so let's move on to the Laments. See what we got here. Now, do you want to...
I can't remember if there's any additional of those, but those are essentially just how you died. Well, not how you died, but how you access the spirit realm. Sorry.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, the skimmers, and it's sort of like it's not like a full-on, like kind of like a class, it's more like a subclass. So skimmers are people that use like wacko transcendental meditation or drugs to meditate their way into the underworld. And then sleepers are people who do like the whole Frighteners thing, where they, wrap you up in the, is it Frighteners? It's not Frighteners. I can't remember the name of the movie. That ghost movie where they bring your body temperature way down and bring you close to death.
Oh shit! Come on, Flatliners.
Flatliners, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, sleepers are essentially like the Flatliners. They put you into a sensory deprivation tank, and you like step outside of your body that way. And then spirits, I can't remember the difference between spirits and hues. So I think spirits are just dead.
Okay.
Like they're ghosts.
Yeah,
and then
that's...
hues.
Okay, dead air.
Yeah, hues. Yeah, sorry, I was reading. That's my
okay.
bad. Yeah, hues are basically normal people that can basically induce near-death experiences. So they can, overdose on drugs and hold their breath.
Okay.
Almost kill themselves in order to step into the underworld. And nobody in my group was a Hugh, so I didn't remember it very well.
Okay, so Ken,
and there might be some other ones later on, but I apologize.
No, we'll come back to Orpheus a little bit. Ken, let's talk Geist here, and
okay.
as some friends of the show have mentioned in the chat was that there seems to be a lot of parallels between Orpheus and Geist.
Right. So, in order to understand Geist, you have to understand the base functions of the system. They're sin eaters. The whole thing is more of like two souls, one flesh. It's a merging, not a possession, right?
So it's a little bit more like Mummy.
Yeah. So the Geist usually
Mummy
are
second
repeat
edition.
offenders. So Geist will do this over and over again when their host dies. Some don't. Some are new. But
Renew,
essentially,
Really? It's called Renew?
no. Some are new.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Right. No. Some are new ghosts and Geists, and how you become one is completely different. But you have to have a near-death experience, just like you do in that one. And what your experience is kind of influences which kind of Geist gets drawn to you. So you have the Torn, which is death by violence, the Silent, which is death by deprivation, the Prey, death by nature, the Stricken, death by pestilence, and the Forgotten, death by chance. Right?
Oh.
So it goes off of that there's actually a fifth horseman of the apocalypse kind of thing, and that's kind of like the overall kind of thing. But the whole game system is based on second chances. It's like Lost Boys, but spirit-possessed guys. You know what I mean? So it's a trash culture gypsy thing. They've got like the hobo network called the Twilight Code or the Twilight Network. And the whole thing is based on spirits and whatnot. So they have flesh fairs and grand carnivals. So the big days for them are like the Carnaval de Venezuela, Dia de los Muertos, and the Ghost Festival in China. Those are their huge events. And they have this whole interesting substructure. So you have Crews with a K, which is like you and your buddies. Cult is the alternate version for that. Then it bulks into factions, and then conspiracies. So you have that would be the overall nature of your deal.
By the way, the term crew is also used for the people who sponsor floats during Mardi Gras.
And so their Geists is what possess you. So when you die, they go, or when you're about to die, they go, instead of dying, why don't we cross back over the threshold together? We become one. And to what degree that is really up to you as a player character. So you can go from just that, it's a bad idea to sleep with that hooker kind of voice in the back of your head to Charlie's in the bush. It's really, and you can even get to the point where they be a second voice in your head if you so want.
Well, yeah, we've talked on the race shows, is especially during tabletop games, but also there's a couple of instances of use during LARPs, is you have somebody else play your shadow.
Right. And in this one, that's not so much the case. It's just kind of like a subset of your character. What I think is interesting in this is how your powers work, right? So Geist is all about keys and thresholds, right? So when you would use your experience to pick a certain kind of threshold, or let's say your death by violence, right? So one of the things you can do is you can pick a power that's related to that, and it has a different effect based on the key that you possess, right?
Okay.
And the power restriction is one key per power, one key per door, right? So if we go through the book here, and let's see if we can find a power real quick. That's easy to use as a base kind of explanation, because some of these powers are not many of them are combat based, so it's kind of a little different in that sense.
Buffs are cool too.
It's not even so much as buffs in that sense.
It's wacky ghost utility stuff, man.
Yeah, it is. So okay, so let's see here. We'll go with the Pyre Flame Boneyard. So you have Boneyard would be your main threshold, right? So you have Cold Wind, Grave Dirt, Pyre, Industrial, Tear Stained, Passion, Phantasmal, and Stigmata, Primeval, Stillness. And those are all the different kinds of boneyards based on what key you have.
Okay.
Right?
Can you have more than one key?
Yes, but you can only put one key into the threshold at a time. So, but if you have boneyard and you have, let's say you have another one, call. If you have fire, you can put points into both the pyre call and the pyre flame boneyard, and you can activate them independently of each other. And if you have more than one key, like you have grave dirt, you can put one into the grave dirt call and then one into like the pyre flame boneyard and use them together in a sense.
It's like that Castlevania Game Boy game where you had the different tarot cards that you can match up. You guys never played that?
Oh, God, I hadn't thought about that one in years.
Yeah.
So, but to like give you an idea, like the Passion Boneyard. Boneyard power itself is basically just their variation of saying AoE, right? So, like the 2-star, everyone has the same first level Boneyard power, right? It's when you have it, the Sin Eater instills essential characteristics for one of the 4 elements into the fabric of the Boneyard, and the base Boneyard, each one gives you a different thing that you can do flavor-wise, right? So with Cold Wind Boneyard, the Sin Eater unlocks the Cold Wind Boneyard while out of doors and in cold weather or during heavy rainstorms. You may add your occult rating to the activations of the successes for the purposes of determining the maximum area.
Oh.
Right. And then, like, the 4th level of that, or the 5th level of that, is the Sin Eater may now inflict lethal damage on any target within the Boneyard's area. The power functions just as the same 4-dot, except it's lethal instead of bashing, and each attack costs 4 plasm. And so you can go out to... Let's see here. How far does that go out? Like 5 miles.
Wow.
And you can essentially spend 3 plasm and inflict a gunshot wound on someone.
Huh.
But because it's the Cold Wind Boneyard, you're causing... That's why you get the bonus activation successes. So if it's raining real hard and it's cold, you essentially cause the cold to inflict damage on them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I'm seeing, the manifestations are fueled by plasm or slime, as I like to call it.
Right. But you can do things like the Industrial Boneyard. So you can activate and gain dominion with every object within your range.
As in, what do you mean? Inanimate objects? Or
Yeah. So you can basically make a occult check to throw objects around you in I think it's 400 meters. And you can use Boneyard abilities while astrally projecting.
Oh, shit.
Daddy.
No, wait a minute. That seems almost like cheating.
A little bit is. But so one of the interesting things that you can do is you can weave one into the other. And my brother, who played with us, was a guitar player. He overdosed. And he got possessed by the spirit of Jimi Hendrix, right? And so what he would do is when he would play, he would invoke the Passion Boneyard and the Phantasmal Boneyard because they have lingering effects. And so he would use Passion to heighten up the crowd and lower their resistances to Phantasmal. And he could, in essence, get up into a large group of people, get them super hyped and into the song, and then work them into a fervent state and cause them to commit mass arson, kill people, incite riots, and like a whole bunch of craziness. And they would be perceiving it as like a lucid, like rave trip.
Oh.
Because that's just how Phantasmal works. It alters your mind state.
Right. Yeah, it's dream stuff.
Yeah.
Just as a side note, just because you mentioned Jimi Hendrix, and I actually posted a picture a couple of days ago of Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, and Bruce Lee.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that was a cool photo. I saw that.
All 3 of them are members of the 27 Club.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is you can actually live for a very long time when you're possessed.
Yeah, that's what it was saying here.
Yeah. And you can actually do...
Abmortal? I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you become less human-like and more like super creepy. Like, I would almost attribute it to things like David Bowie in his role in Labyrinth, in that kind of sense,
Which
like
I
how he's
watched
just
yesterday.
that old creepy kind of thing where he's kind of disconnected from society.
No, I think it's just the tights, man.
I think so, too.
Could be, but like
that's what you get, is you get that willingness to wear tights as an adult male in public, right?
Well, when I was watching it yesterday, I kept thinking Changeling.
right.
All these characters are, except for maybe Ludo, appear to be some kind of a changeling. You know, it's kind of creepy.
Well, I think the big difference for me in this game, in Geist, what I really enjoy is it's kind of like gang activity with spirits tied to it. Right.
See, that's the part of it that it always kind of threw me off. And I admit that you should probably, as I'm going into saying this, keep in mind I have a reading disability, so I don't read very well. And I remember first reading all this stuff with Geist, and I'm like, what are all these crews and all this social stuff? I'm like, what? I don't understand why these people are even interacting with each other. I don't get it. So can you tell me more about the whole gang thing and how that works?
So the whole reasoning behind the gangs and whatnot is they have structure because there's not a whole lot of them. And so they group up because it's like that whole near-death experience kind of thing. When you serve with someone in a war, that's your war buddy. You both have experienced a near-death thing, so it kind of pulls people together. So what's interesting is if you're the leader of a crew, you can call a gathering. Now, a gathering is either a wake, which is a party, a convocation, which is kind of like a council thing, and that's rare. Market, which they sell things that have weird, like, spirit value, and war council, which is typically like, there's some shit that's going to get us killed, we need to handle it.
Okay.
And their spirit items are different. Like, the car that Kennedy was assassinated in, to them, would have more of a value because they can access powers within it. Because it's connected to some major death.
Okay, well, here's my major question that I have, and I think this is what kind of turned me off back in the past, and I'm hoping you can alleviate that.
Sure.
What is the conflict in those groups?
The conflict within them, aside from them being very Sabbat-like and territorial kind of gang-wise, their biggest enemies are the Kerberoi and the Chthonians. Those are the creatures that go bump in the night.
Okay.
They band together to prevent themselves from being extinguished. Hunters are still an issue. The other, like,
so there's not as much reason for the different crews or whatnot to have conflict with each other.
They do because of territory, because they're very gang-like. But aside from
what is the resource that their territory represents?
They're what they have because they're still people.
Oh, is it like the Carns for the werewolves, or
kinda? Yeah, to a degree. They'll have
like
areas that they can. Well, they can bind a spirit to their crew, right? And I'm gonna use the last game I ran as kind of like an example because it's kind of amusing. When they had made their characters, they all died by chance. And I didn't let them make their characters together. They made them all separate. And they all picked death by chance. They all picked death by vehicular accident.
Oh, shit.
Right? And so they became a motorcycle car gang called Death's Gambit. Which is kind of a cool name.
That's great. I love
it. Down the road, when they had accumulated enough ability to have kind of like a crew kind of spirit, they were doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and they performed the ritual, and the ritual kicked them out Dale Earnhardt. Right? Which gave them +2 levels of drive, but also +2 levels of lethal whenever there was an accident involved.
Okay.
Oh.
It's in horrible taste. I get that,
right? But
they
like
would
it.
abuse the shit out of it. They would use the industrial boneyard and drive cars into buildings, causing an extra 2 levels of lethal. all sorts of stuff. But they were very much like a motorcycle gang. And the problem is like, so you can steal energy.
When another crew comes in and causes them problems, how do they cause them problems with their territories?
Okay. So you can make pacts with the local ghosts for energy and stuff like that, and you try to just have a chill kind of thing. Other groups will come in and raid that.
So there is a resource, like a spiritual essence resource that
and they'll and if
that's
they want
the angle.
And if they want to take like more territory from you, they'll come in and destroy your ghosts or banish them.
Right. Or
cleanse
to work
them
for them only or whatever.
Bribe them, pull them around, that sort of thing. And it's all like low key behind the scenes kind of Camarilla level shit. Because up front they're all buddy buddy, but behind the scenes it's, kind of more Sabat like than anything else.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And that sounds fun as shit. but it's a particular detail that I had always not managed to see when I was like skimming around in the book, and I was like, okay, the powers look cool, but I don't understand all this crew stuff. And that's what I fundamentally wasn't getting, is like, why do these crews matter? Why do I care about their big events and all this sort of stuff? Because it just sounded like a bunch of like, hi, getting to know you, great. And I'm like, who cares? Like, I want to fight ghosts,
Right.
But when you introduce conflict, like that makes me want to bring it into the game. Like, oh, no, now I want all these different crews. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like the Grand Carnivals, everyone puts their shit to the side, and that's like their big deal. Personally, all of the powers, it's like what's super interesting is they're not even like, it's like some of them are stage up as they go up, but most of them are like it does other things, like the Stigmata Call, right? You can control your own spilt blood, right? You can infuse your blood with a point of plasm, and while you're focusing your senses on the pool, you can move it up to your speed each turn. It can't climb walls, but you can form it into specific shapes and even letters, or manipulate objects with an effective strength of 1. Right? And then level 2 is you can see through the blood. Right? But when you see through it, it causes you a point of bashing. Right? And then like 3... you can detach one of your own arms and control it at a range.
Pull a thing, huh?
Right? And then at 4, you can craft a homunculus out of your own blood.
That's kind of cool.
Yes.
Right?
That's
so...
cool.
It's like the Blood Brothers, man.
Yeah. But there's like cold, there's curses, there's...
the powers are dope in that game.
The stillness curse is weird. The stillness curse makes it so that you can walk through a crowded city street and people will bump into you, but they don't realize you're there. It's like reverse obfuscation.
Oh.
It's like Ninja Vanish.
Yeah, but you don't realize it as the victim. It's like you feel like you're dead.
Yeah. It's kind of like some of the old school interpretations of Obfuscate 1.
Yeah, and like at 5, like your target is struck in with supernaturally intense aphasia. And you can enable phrases, and like any attempt you use to write just makes tangles of keystrokes or doodles. So like you can use this to like mess people up. Like it's super weird because very few of it is actually combat. So it's all your gang plus you can do all this really weird shit, and it's kind of neat.
Oh, that stuff's awesome, though, because that's so many different angles for different methods of interaction, different types of conflict. Like, that's awesome, because that makes your game interesting without it being
also different
always
fighting.
And so, like, for example, like, you can do marionette, right? You can try to convince a judge that what he's doing to, like, lock up your friend is a bad idea by pulling his dead wife out of a cemetery and dancing her bones in front of him till he agrees.
That's not fun at all.
But it's neat.
I know, it is kind of cool. No, I was being sarcastic. I was like, yeah, I can do that.
That's great stuff, yeah.
There's the weird shit with, like, the oracles. The oracle is the one that's very game-breaky, so you nearly kill yourself every time you use it. So, like, in order to, like, see into, like, some of them aren't so bad, but, like industrial, you're pretty good at crafting. But, like, the Stigmata one, you can see into the ghostly areas, but like the stuff that's happening around you. But in order to do so, you put yourself at a huge risk of being eaten.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And like, it's just the rages, I think, are the only ones that are super damaging, which is like the grave dirt one. You can make the earth attack something, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, it's an element manipulation. Yeah. That's kind of hip.
Yeah, and there's like industrial rage, passion rage. You can make them suffer negative rolls. You can put their defense at 0. There's a whole bunch of like a lot of really interesting stuff in here, and I think why I was drawn to the whole system so hardcore is because you can Inigo Montoya character and just change the powers, and it completely changes how you play. And not by, like, much. You know what I mean? Like, you can just change the powers a little. Like, right. And it's
but the output is huge.
Yeah, the output is immensely huge. And the tailoring of skills to powers and how you only need one key. And then there's, like, certain, like, but, like, really important artifacts you can get that essentially give you a secondary key of that thing, so you can have 2 things inside the same thing activated, or that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
It's super crazy, and there's like ceremonies, just like in remember how there's a bunch of like rituals and stuff for necromancy, Eric?
Mm-hmm. So I got a question here. Seeing as how you're this amazing Geist fan and are further pulling me back into giving it another try a little bit better than I have in the past. What do you have any insight into the 2nd edition and what they're doing with that? Because I hear that's coming around the corner.
I do not, actually. Eric contacted me about this, and I haven't touched Geist in 2 years.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I don't.
I'd be curious to see what they're going to do.
I don't know if they're actually even going to redo or reboot the New World. I think we're kind of
Well, they're doing
stuck.
2nd editions of the New World of Darkness.
Oh, are they? Okay, then I must have missed that.
So, and they've been doing it for a while now. They, I don't know if you guys remember a few years back, they did the God Machine Chronicle and they did the Blood and Strix thing. Well, essentially both Blood and Strix and the God Machine Chronicle were like test beds for 2nd edition. And then they produced Chronicles of Darkness, which is essentially like the 2nd edition of New World of Darkness, which they're relabeling, rebranding Chronicles of Darkness, and it has all of the God Machine stuff in it. Then they have a 2nd edition Vampire Requiem, which includes all the Strix stuff as a part of the base game. So then they've done Mage 2nd edition, and they've done Prometheus 2nd edition, and I think next they're working on Hunter, and they're working on Geist as well. So they're putting out 2nd editions for them, but they're all going to be put on demand, and they're all going to be.
I just hope they don't treat it like a cash grab.
Right.
It doesn't
giving out or selling a inferior product just because they can.
Right.
I don't see the new crew doing that at all. They have been very.
No, that's.
I was going to say they've been very receptive when one of us makes mention of something. If you get a hold of somebody like Jason Carl, he's more than happy to take constructive criticism.
Yeah.
It's been my experience with all the second, because I've been running a bunch of New World of Darkness, like Chronicles of Darkness 2nd edition, this past 2 years, and in my experience, I think they are working really hard to make better games.
Yes, and I love that. I really do.
And so I don't feel like it's a cash grab. I feel like they've got some legitimate, like, good ideas, and they're trying to implement them. I have had a little bit of mixed success doing that myself, but I attribute that more to my, personal lack of ability as a game master than their lack of ability to make a game.
Can I key in on that real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I think that if you're trying to introduce someone to the World of Darkness system, slasher is probably the best way to do it.
Why do people keep saying that? I don't know a lot about
the
slasher.
first I've heard it.
Okay, so this is why. Because Slasher, as the storyteller, there's a variation of the game you can play. There's a Mortals book and a Slasher book, and they kind of go hand in hand, right?
Okay.
And essentially what you do is as a GM or an ST, you pre-generate stereotypic tropes for a horror movie, right? And you make like 8 or 9 of them for the 4 people playing, and then you make a slasher character, and you basically have them play a survival horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
What? You mean like
easy.
They didn't fucking leave the cabin in the woods fast enough situation?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I ran, and they're great for one-shots. I ran one that lasted 5 hours, and it was like this combination of Stephen King's like little worms plus possession kind of thing. And their characters were like the ditzy bitchy cheerleader, the nerdy weeboo who has a katana that only works once because it's shitty.
I'm losing my shit over that. That's amazing. I love that.
The football quarterback who really only talks about football.
Bob Rubik.
And there was I don't remember what the other one was, but like,
that's
like
great.
one of the things that happened is that the bitchy cheerleader had a pet dog, and the first incident was the dog was flayed open and stapled to a board on the back of her cabin.
Like you do.
Oh, I've seen this movie. The poor black dude dies first.
And like all sorts of stuff happens, and like the person who ends up saving the day is they use the katana to like kill the host, and the little worm thing comes out, and the dude who plays the football jock goes football and throws a spiral and rolls like 27 successes like in total, and just spirals the thing and just does enough actual damage to just kill it.
You just pitches it against a concrete wall.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing that I think it's really awesome is they're not trying to wrap their head about playing things they've never experienced before. They're playing people. Well,
they're also not wrapping their head around trying to play against something they've never heard of before either.
Yeah. And so you're like, pick a trope. I can pick a trope. Right. Roll this and this for that, right? And you just kind of give them whatever stats. But it's easy for them to just focus on the gameplay, and then they're more focused on working together. And role-playing is super light because they're just playing a trope, you know?
Right.
Adam in the channel says Slasher is about what happens when hunters go too far.
That's true, but this is an alternate version of Slasher that you can use. And
it's
the hunter Slasher thing
methods in the back of the book.
Yeah. Right. And what he's talking about is you can make some pretty crazy hunters with that. It's a lot of fun, and it's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
All right, keep going, guys. I need to go get water. I'll be right back.
Yeah, Slasher was one of those. I remember when the New World of Darkness came out. I started my again. I have reading problems, so I end up collecting more books than I get a chance to read. But it was one of the first books that I got that I was like, no, I don't have to read this to know that's going to be amazing. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of those books anymore due to Devil Girlfriend. But that's really the only reason, because all this stuff is amazing, and I really missed my Slasher book because there was such cool stuff in there, and I remember being inspired to sell. You know, like, I mean, much more so than I was, say, when you had Freak Legion in the past, because they had the Slasher thing with Freak Legion, and like that was cool, but that was more like, okay, I made it, that was fun. All right, now on to actual werewolf stuff, because that's better. But like New World of Darkness Slasher stuff was just like a cut above, you know, and throwing mortals into that situation, and I had never thought of it as like a game like starter, a game introduction scenario, and it's pretty great.
You know, that original blue book for the New World of Darkness, you know, I actually used that when I was counseling to teach patients consequences.
Oh yeah, how did that work?
They looked forward to it. We did it every Thursday, and they always, you know, they just made people.
I just played.
Guy, what did you want to be? I was, you know, I want to be a park ranger. All right, you're a park ranger, dude. You know, and, you know, and put them into like, there's a ghost doing this, and they're like, oh no, you know, and then just have a good time.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's really super easy to get people involved with that.
Yeah, I here recently did Chronicles of Darkness and had like a ghost themed game, and we ended up running it for like 10 months. And it's just started off as kind of a lark pickup game, but the game just, I mean, it plays real smooth. It's intuitive. People understand it, people get into it, and it's really underappreciated in my opinion. And that's coming from a guy who's like a hardcore, like old school World of Darkness proponent. Like I am all about, like, I love that meta plot. I love those stories, but there's something to be said for that blue book. Big time. There's big time something to be said for that blue book. And it sounds like I need to listen to one of my friends who's another huge Geist fan, in addition to our friend here who's told us all about how amazing Geist is. And sounds like I need to revisit that too.
Yeah.
And take another look at that. Because
New Wave's got a comment. She says she remembers hearing some people had an issue with the slasher book because of its content.
Yeah, there was a lot of like extreme content in there. Like it didn't hold back on a lot of like the things that you would normally consider taboo aren't taboo so much in that book. It's a book that specifically had you have to be 18 and up to look at it.
No, it's for reals. It's one of those serious, almost like Black Dog books.
Yeah. It's not a book for anyone who isn't understanding. Yeah, it's bad. Like it really and it's all about immersing yourself in that, and it's not, I would suggest, as something that someone who just wants something kind of fun. Like that's something for someone who really wants to make something crazy dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why I was like, yeah.
To touch back on the earlier thing, you guys were talking about how ghosts don't play well with other systems. Eric and I had to do a lot of toning down our personal ghosts in the Giovanni game, or as our Giovannis, to bring into line with because we were playing Mind's Eye Theater. And we, like, what is it, Stone Fist Punch or whatever it's called? Yeah. Every success is just an extra lethal damage.
Damn.
Yeah, we were just sitting there. We didn't have to do anything. We just stood there and let this ghost just pummel somebody, and then walk around him.
Yeah, and you were more into, like, your character, had the ability to just rip souls out of people, and mine was super big on ritual binding.
Yeah, so we'd rip somebody's soul out and then bind that soul to a chair and sit in it. Yeah.
And just
here for 100 years.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
change your attitude then. Like,
I used to run live action. It was a little private game, and it was a good portion of the game was Wraith crossover for just the reasons that you just described.
Yeah,
because you could do all kinds of amazing shit, and the players would be like, "Oh my god, how do I deal with this?"
Exactly.
Wraith tends to play better with most of the other splats. It just tends.
I think it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it thematically fits. Because everybody's got victims.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what game you're playing, somebody's going to die, So having some ghosts come back, I think, makes perfect sense.
Exactly. Having one of them come back and say, "Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Come on, you and me. Let's go.
Yeah.
What's up?
You pissed me off. I are angry now."
Right?
Hey, all I can do is light matches, but here's your haven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. That would be bad.
I always like my fun intimidation thing with the Giovanni, where I'd write a note with saying something like, "I know where you sleep," and put my little seal on it and stuff, and then have a wraith bring it over to like whoever's haven and put it on their chest while they're sleeping.
Oh, that would suck.
Eric, wasn't there like a game where both of us just decided not to show up because someone from the family was supposed to show up?
Yeah.
We're just like, no, we're going to opt this one out.
Yeah, one of our like Uncle Bobby, whatever,
Yeah.
Uncle Bob Giovanni was going to come into town. We're like, nope, we're going to sit this one out, thanks.
It's just some guy with the name in the middle, like Bobby the Fish.
If I remember correctly, my character was actually legit Geo, because it was Marcus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which had the proxy kiss and all that other jazz.
Big Fat Polly.
Yeah.
I actually did. There's a character in the Clan novels that might as well be Big Fat Polly, as far as the way it was, the way I read it in the book anyway, or excuse me, books, because he was in a couple of them, and I was like, yeah, you're just being a real big dick, dude. They are not going to take this well, and they didn't. I'm trying to remember who threw him out of the tied him to a drink machine and threw it out the window.
I mean, on an earlier note, you guys said that playing Immortal would kind of suck. I have played a couple Mortals that were more lethal than actual people, which was kind
I've
of.
had some NPCs that were Mortals that were more lethal than the player characters.
Eric, what was that one game where you were playing an Invictus?
Oh, that was the LARP thing.
Yeah. And Higgy was there or whatever, and he was playing that, like, the people who were so disconnected from being humans.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah. This, like, complete dick. Yeah, well,
yeah.
Okay. A different kind of dick, which is just normal, but in a different suit, maybe?
Yeah, so I went in there, I'm like, I'm going to be a ghoul. And they're like, okay, so I went to this super social whore, and my job was entirely to deal with them because he had -7 traits to dealing with me. And, like, it's just, there's ways you can have fun with it, but, I don't know.
No, it's, oddly enough, I've made mention on more than one occasion that I'm not a big fan of the New World. But some folks have actually started changing my mind. Especially with one of my favorite splats is Vampire. So the Requiem actually sounded like fun after it got explained. Sounds like I might actually enjoy Geist too.
Yeah, Geist is sounding better and better and better. And I like chiming in on Vampire Requiem.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel like the second edition is more playable than the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
their word around the campfire is it got rushed out the door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that with your whole like game line ending and you needing to put out a product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that.
Now I'm trying to remember, was White Wolf bought out by CCP or was it Wizards of the Coast and then CCP?
No, it's just straight up CCP.
Okay.
CCP. I don't think they were ever owned by Wizards of the Coast. Because they would have put out a goddamn product.
Yeah. By the way, it looks like we've had a request a little further back up the chat about doing a Wraith 20th show. And I don't think we've done a Wraith. I mean, other than this one.
Looks like I'll have to get my read on.
Yeah, you might want to do that. I'd be happy to get you guys back on the show. For instance, like, what else are you conversant in? Just as a...
I ran Bunch as a werewolf.
Okay.
Bunch as a werewolf. And I played in a lot of Vampire. I ran a couple mage games.
Pete, this was the guy that I used to just give a random thing to and just say go cause havoc, and he would. Or I'd say he can make something, and he would, and it would cause havoc.
Like that time I was playing a Bali and went undetected for like 3 months.
Holy crap! How
exactly.
Did you do it? How can you?
I even became the leader of a little group there.
How do you get away with playing an Infernalist that long without anybody noticing?
Nobody bothered.
I sensed the sin on like 70% of the player base.
Oh, jeez.
And it just started pulling strings until he was like, I could probably do something really disgusting. I'm like, yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah,
this is too horrible.
I became a
not catch on at all.
Point.
But to answer your question, I'm pretty well versed in all of the World of Darkness stuff, old and new. I've played various games to varying degrees, but I'm one of those guys that, despite my reading disability, I just collect books and I just read the hell out of them. And I've done at least 2-3 sessions in every single one of them, with the exception of Beast. And So, and I'm really well versed in just about every other major game that's going on. I've kind of turned myself into a jack of all trades, and I sample everything and have a lot of stuff going on.
Since Eric isn't on board with the Banu Hakim show, I'm going to rearrange some stuff. We've got a Pentex show that we need a guest on.
Pentex.
Yeah.
See, my only issue for future shows is I tend to run a game on Tuesday nights.
Oh.
So this is kind of a fluke thing that I'm able to come by, but that game does go in and out. There's a lot of like, hey, see you next week that happens. So I would probably just have to check in with you whenever that happens.
Yeah, we've had folks on who were running games. Wasn't it you, Eric, that was running a demon game
while we were on?
Yeah.
While you were on.
Yeah, it was actually interesting.
I was at my friend's house up in Ann Arbor with my phone, and we just, I put it down on the table. We just were playing the whole time.
I'm not going to lie. This really scratches an itch for me. I've moved to Boston. And I haven't been able to play any kind of tabletop anything in 3.5, 4 years. So you can bug me as much as you want.
Okay. I got you.
I play 4 games a week.
Wow. That's a pretty significant...
I play with myself a lot.
But 4 games a week, that's a pretty significant time sink.
We started getting together on Sundays to start just playing Vampire 5th and then random board games sometimes. So that's been going pretty good.
That's cool.
And they're all newbies too, so.
I still haven't done Vampire 5th yet. I've only been reading it, so I'm looking forward to that myself.
Yeah, I'm looking at that one. I actually want to play.
Yeah, I kind of just dived right into it and just, made a bunch of stuff. And
it's cool.
Even if people don't make characters and don't show up, you can use their other stuff to make stories out of it. It's kind of really sweet.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be amazing.
Okay, which game? Anyway, if I'm talking to you, girl, what you want to know more about? What game? Is the one with the undercover volley? Is that what you're talking about, or? She'll tell me in a minute. There's about like a 30-second delay.
What we did with she wants to hear more about Ken's exploits as the Bali that was going to ruin my game.
Right. So this was back when Eric was running a Sabbat game, and I was an assistant narrator, I believe.
Whatever. You were helping me out.
I was helping, whatever. And so basically I would be given an NPC to run with, and I was really pushing this Bali plot, and he finally was like, sure, go ahead, but keep it low-key. And so I did.
Sounds like you got away with it.
I became Ductus of my own pact. I had, 5 or 6 people in my pact?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had made... outside of that, Eric, I don't know if you were aware of this, but I had made 2 of the other pact leaders do the Valkyrie with me.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was slowly controlling the game. There was, in fact, one point where everyone is outside, and I was like, I kind of meted it a little bit, and I'm like, as a narrator, I need everyone to throw me a check, and I did a mass sense the sin, and got all 13 of them.
Wow.
So, without doing a single reroll. So...
That's crazy.
I told them they could retest it if they wanted to, with, I think it was, a cult, and nobody had it, or wanted to, and I was like, all right. So, that was that. But...
Okay, we're gonna slip back into Orpheus here for a few minutes. I've noticed after reading up on this a little more, what's up with these the locations in Orpheus? The Umbra gets mentioned, Mayfair Greens, and Marion Federal Penitentiary. So, give us a little bit more background on those.
I'm not recognizing what you're talking about. Those sound like key, locations for the where big things happen, and they have the typical kind of a situation that you have in most World of Darkness games, where you've got some kind of veil or between the worlds.
The storm wall.
Vacillate. The storm wall, yeah. So it can vacillate just like it, the veil can in Wraith, where it's thinner in some areas and thicker in some areas. And there's some implications that you can. It's one of those things where, like, if you know the world of darkness and you look into it, you're like, oh, here's the part where I could merge, the underworld with some other part of the Umbra. But they don't necessarily go there explicitly. But as far as those specific locations, I'm not recognizing what you're talking about. Sorry.
Okay.
What are they again? Tell me again.
Let's start with the Marion Federal Penitentiary. Apparently, there was some sort of experiment going on with using the convicts.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's it. So that's an event. That's something that that happens as a part of the story.
Oh, and of course they called them flatliners here. Surprise, surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
Dude. Oh my god, man.
We got a private joke going on right now.
From Austin, right?
Yeah.
Dude.
Dude, what's up, man?
What's up, buddy? How you doing, dude? Wow, this is a trip, man.
What's going on?
Dude, I knew
me and Eric
Alan
used to
from
play
Austin.
together.
We used to game and LARP in Austin together
Yeah.
for a while.
Oh yeah.
For several years.
Yeah. And this is Ken, by the way, my buddy that we met up here.
Yeah, awesome.
This is like a little reunion for Eric. Wonderful.
Yeah. Eric reunion day.
Damn.
Yeah, I was listening to your voice, and then I was like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't say something during the show." And I was like, "Oh, fuck
Yeah,
this! I
'cause
should
I'm
say
like-
something during the show, man. This is like that's Eric, dude. Fuck, you know."
I'm like, I know that guy.
I know
That's a
that.
trip, man.
Okay, let's move on to the Mayfair Greens, the housing project that was.
Yeah, that's another big plot element. I mean, I could give it away, but
Yeah, like I said, there's no such thing as spoilers here.
if you want me to give it away, so what they do, I don't remember exactly what happened at the penitentiary. I think that's where they did the experiments to learn how to get people to cross the shroud.
Mm-hmm.
What happened at the housing project is there was a massive overdose. They have this drug called pigment that whenever you take this drug, it's basically like specter blood. But when you take this, it's in the physical realm. Whenever you take this drug, you start seeing ghosts. And it's got a high risk of death. And there was a huge outbreak of the stuff at that housing project in this big apartment complex. And just about everybody in it fucking died. And it turned into this whole event, and it was like Spectre City.
Oh, damn. That would be bad.
Yep.
That would definitely be the suck.
Yes.
Yes, full of much suck.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, we're past an hour at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to welcome the new listeners, not new, but you guys that just came in. If you've got any more questions about anything, at this point we'll answer whatever. We try our best anyway. Now, to be perfectly honest, some of the information might be apocryphal. Or at least wildly inaccurate.
Yeah. Based on personal impressions, based on long historical, memories.
So, if you wanted, I guess it was Ken, right? That you've either run or played all of the suit. Oh, the splats. My bad.
I've done most of the Mind's Eye Theater or original book stuffs. I didn't do a whole lot of the new iteration, mostly just because change bad. But I don't know.
Adam's got a question. Says he hasn't gotten all the way through Wraith 20 yet. Are there any details on Orpheus in that one?
I don't remember explicitly what they are, but yes, it's mentioned.
Okay. New Wave wants to know, so how did the time of judgment affect Orpheus?
It didn't.
No, okay.
Oh,
its
yeah.
own thing.
it's its own thing, and it's basically like, in a way, like I always tried to tie it into the World of Darkness proper. It doesn't have to be, but I always enjoyed it. And what I did is it can easily be put in that, like, after Stygia is destroyed, or Stygia is destroyed, and like the whole Wraith setting is gone kaputs. Like essentially Orpheus is how humans are dealing with the aftermath of that.
Okay. Well, as I understand it, the Ebony Kingdom and the Jade Kingdom, they had some issues with the Sixth Great Maelstrom, but it wasn't as bad as what happened to Stygia.
Right.
Oh, geez, somebody's pinging me.
Sorry.
During the show.
But that was always kind of.
Oh, was that you?
Yeah.
Okay. Get with you here. Anywho, well, is there something that you can't say on air, or?
No, I was just asking for the link to the YouTube channel so I could sub.
Oh, yeah. Hang on.
I just didn't feel like I should just throw that out there like, yeah, I'm here, but I didn't sub.
If you go, are you a member of one of the two, the old World of Darkness group, or the the White Wolf gameplay media? That
Hold
one?
on a second.
No.
Huh.
I blissfully kept myself disconnected from that.
All right.
Yeah, I kind of did too.
Let me pull it up real quick.
I already got it.
You got it?
The channel is Tempest Tenebrum, and it comes up on there.
Yeah. It's the only thing.
Yeah.
That would pop up in YouTube. So,
Yeah.
Scott, hold on, I'm trying to read this. Scott says that in I guess he's talking about New Wave's question above that was yes, but it's more like how to incorporate Orpheus into Wraith, as far as the Wraith 20, I suspect.
Right. And I think it's just like a footnote. It's not like a major part of the thing, but it's a little bit of a nod, if I'm not mistaken. And now there could be a whole section of it. I haven't gotten too far into the book. I admit I am ADD as fuck, and I'm always reading 100 billion different fucking things. If I were to give you my reading list, you would cough at me. So I haven't gotten that far through it, but like they did try to incorporate some of the abilities from Orpheus, and they do mention it, but it's not. I don't think it's considered like a major part of gameplay that they're going to incorporate all the Orpheus stuff. Now, I could be wrong.
So it
I
never.
can get my book and look too. Is another thing I can do.
Okay, New Wave wants to know. So it never gave any hints about what could happen at the end of the Orpheus book line.
Oh, no. The end of what happens in the Orpheus book line is really well spelled out in the Orpheus book line. The last book, Endgame, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
Like that's basically an apocalypse scenario.
Oh, okay.
So it's got its own. It's completely, like Eric said, it's completely self-contained, and it's got everything you need within it. So you don't really have to wonder about what their Armageddon would be like because it's in there, and it describes it pretty clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems to be more than some of the old world stuff. Some were vaguer than others as far as the end of the world. We already know that apparently Gehenna is happening still. It's just taking longer.
Convenient excuse for putting out more games. But
yeah, exactly. Well, no, I think they learned their lesson, dude, about ending a very popular.
Yeah.
At least I hope so. Because we don't want to repeat at all.
No, that was a very, very bad thing.
Yeah. So, Wraith, Orpheus, Geist are closer together than, this is what I'm getting from this whole conversation, are a lot closer together than some of the other storylines as far as,
for sure.
Vampire or werewolf or mage or whatever. including their transition from the old world to the Chronicles. So, I'm sorry, I was trying to read another comment. I need to keep my mind.
So I read, just for the sake of the listener who was questioning, I did pick up my Wraith 20 book to take a look at it. And what they did is they created an appendix for Orpheus that's not going to have all the story elements, but just has enough stuff to use the Wraith rules to play an Orpheus-style story.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Adam was talking about, what I was about to think about was the Risen.
Oh, I love the Risen.
The Risen are cool.
The Risen are cool as hell.
Right, talk to me.
All right, so basically, a Risen is basically kind of like the Crow in a roundabout way.
Ah.
Yeah, it's a spirit that just gets so full of vengeance or whatever that so that it actually goes back into its body and rises up and goes to kick the crap out of something.
Mm-hmm.
Just hones in on whatever his thing was that he needed to do.
Yeah, we actually had a Risen in our Orpheus game.
That's the New World of Darkness version of Mummy, yeah?
No, this is actually an old school Wraith thing.
Oh,
yeah.
It came out in the 90s, and it was a isolated supplement. It was specifically White Wolf writing the shirt tails of the Crow. The Crow was so popular, they're like, we got to do this with our Ghost game.
Yeah,
and
of course.
They succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly
It's awesome.
so.
You make a deal with your shadow and agree to cross cross back into your own body and re-inhabit your own body with your shadow, and it's a horrible, terrible thing, and it's amazing. It's great.
Does not sound good. I can think of a lot of shit.
There are lots of fun to throw into games.
Oh
Any
my god,
game.
they're fantastic.
Just anyone.
Yeah. So much story, so much ability.
Adam's saying, how did the Reckoning touched on the Wraith walking?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Because they also had wraiths that weren't all that powerful, going into dead bodies and rising up from the grave, and
yep, that was the whole.
That happened a lot more after the Maelstrom.
Right.
Mm.
There was some mention of that in Orpheus, but it wasn't as big a deal as it was in Hunter the Reckoning, which was one of their main antagonists was ghosts that were doing that.
I think they did a good job with the naming of that particular splat, because the whole going into the underworld and coming back is Orpheus. Period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do they have the same issue about not looking back, or?
Well, you certainly can't look back as far as the plot goes. Once those plot elements hit you, boy, your game has changed.
Ooh.
They're pretty substantial.
Does Eurydice come up in the game at all, or
What is that?
Eurydice?
No.
Okay.
No, that's secondary. Just kind of.
I was just curious. I mean, if they're going to use Orpheus,
Right.
I would figure.
But yeah, they didn't really go too much further into it. It's just a good name for a game and describe people coming back from the dead in a sense, in a way. It's just as easily could have been something else, but it's good. And the game is so good that it's just it feels like you're getting that quality of story, in my opinion. But
Okay, now
it's
how
really
about
up there as far as
Demon?
my personal book goes.
Is there any crossover at all for Demon and Orpheus?
No. Well, again, it's one of those things where if you know the World of Darkness really well, you can do it. I crossed it over with Demon, and I actually had Lucifer as one of the recurring NPCs in my Orpheus game.
Nice.
But it's not implicit in the game. It doesn't talk about demonic forces or angels insofar as them actually existing. It will, talk about, like they'll have rumors, and somebody says there's an angel, and really it's a ghost. But there's no direct, demon tie-ins. But again, I will say this every time: if you know the World of Darkness well enough, you will have enough ammo to be able to tie the two in. I think they just wanted to they were working really hard to have just kind of a standalone game that ran by itself, while still giving a nod to the major games, because you can see all the classic World of Darkness stuff in there as where it could tie in or where it could work.
but it's totally an optional thing, and you don't have to throw any of it in, and you can just run Orpheus by itself.
Scott says, "Don't look back" was the tagline for the core book.
It is. Yeah.
All right.
There's not a whole bunch of mechanical stuff or a whole bunch of like ghostly specific type stuff that has to do with it. But I can agree that when it comes to the storyline, it's definitely the truth. Because each one of those new books, when they come around, it rocks your game world upside down, and your game is forever changed after you do each one of those events.
Awesome. That's nice. It sounds like they were. We talked about it at the beginning of the show about using it as a test bed for future stuff that they may or may not do, and the whole, first and second and third acts kind of situation, even though it's all
a limited series RPG that had an entire plot that was built into the game.
Yeah,
is what the idea was, and I think it was a brilliant one, and I would love to see more games like that. Because it's so cool the way, instead of just like, oh well, when should I introduce this new class? When the book comes out that has it in it. like that's when it's appropriate to introduce it to the game. So it helps you scale the power level. It helps you have like some good stories and keep things in theme. And I'd love to see more of it.
To touch on that real quick in regards to Geist, just as an interesting kind of like side note, because you kind of wondered what some of the antagonists to the whole thing. To touch a little bit more on the Kerberoi are essentially like there's old laws that every crew kind of adheres to, right? Mm-hmm. And if you violate these old laws, the Kerberoi get pissed, right? And so what's interesting is these Kerberos are ridiculous. And I mean ridiculous. So like, if you have a 6 rivers like Kerberos, it has 18 plus laws. It doesn't have trait limits. At like 5, the trait limit is 15 dots. Right? It's given at character creation up to 45 attribute dots. 10 manifestation dots, has all 5 keys, all of them at max manifestations, and it has an essence of 50, which is a lot.
Okay. Oh boy, this is not something I'd want to meet in a dark alley.
And here's the weird thing about it, right? And this is the interesting part, is they avoid killing you if they can.
Well, that's not weird at all. That's perfect.
Right? But if they have to, they will.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it's one of those things where they have these rules and laws, and if you violate one might send another crew up to get you.
Right.
To atone for it.
That creates a kind of a classic vampire situation where the NPCs in the game are strong enough and powerful enough that you can't just hit them in the face with your sword, and you have to then entreat with them and talk to them and deal with them as NPCs, which is great. I love that shit.
What I think is interesting is they add a little caveat saying that Kerberoi from dominions past the 6th river don't have traits. Their abilities are near godlike and should be handled through storyteller actions. Right? So, like, it's just there's certain Kerberoi that are just all powerful guard. They're essentially like the things within the underworld. And you have a connection with the underworld being walking the line, but you have to respect the boundaries and the rules and all that other stuff, and if you don't, they come after you.
Well, do you have to, in Orpheus, do you have to deal with the Death Lords in
No,
there's
no Death Lords anymore. They're all gone. It's essentially the entire society of the dead is gone, and you just have like all the ghosts that would be kind of like you're entreating with NPCs that you would talk to and deal with in a Wraith game. They all get pushed out of the Shadowlands and into the mortal realm. Only you only see them if you've got like ghost powers, and then like the Shadowlands as we knew it in Wraith is just gone, and it's essentially just Tempest everywhere. and there's just specters forever and a day.
Oh,
Specters.
see, that's bad.
Yeah.
So that is really double plus ungood.
So you're dealing with all these ghosts that are stuck in the mortal realm and don't know how to function and don't know how to do anything, and start haunting people, and they've got all these abilities and shit. And then you're dealing with other groups who have access to the similar technology that you have. There's like counter, for every CIA there's a Spetsnaz, or KGB,
or Stasi.
Stasi, yeah, there you go. I knew I was fucking that up.
Or Walter Beck.
Yeah, right. That's mostly what you're dealing with throughout everything, and then like governmental agencies, like I said, the FBI comes after you and stuff like that. But in the end, the whole society of Stygia is just gone. I think they mention it as like a myth, like you can have ghosts just mention like, oh yeah, this is what used to exist, but it's all gone.
The Shadowlands probably would be a more peaceful place as long as Stygia was gone, because a lot of the guilds in general were very hard on new wraiths.
Right.
Including, the Artificer, man. You did not want to be taken to the Soul Forge. It was not a good thing.
I think what it is just all of that cultural stuff is a huge impediment to like just rando people playing the game, because they can't relate to it and they have to learn it in the game, and then you have the game master that doesn't want to introduce it in the game. And so by scooping that out and just having like Wraith City all over the place, they just make it a little bit more accessible to where you don't need to know what guild this, fucking ghost is a part of. You just know that it's a ghost and it's here in the material realm and it's not a specter, so you can maybe deal with it and make your own ghost story up from there.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of neat.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm. It's cool.
I'm
really well done. It's really slick.
Looking at this differently. I wasn't sure about it when we first decided to do the show. I did not know anything about it other than what I could find on the wiki. Because I right now can't just keep going get PDFs from DriveThruRPG for everything we do on the show.
Yeah, like Orpheus has this unfair rumor kind of around it. So there's a bunch of people who don't know much about Wraith who just heard that Orpheus is like Kid Wraith or Weak Wraith or Wraith Light.
No.
And it's kind of true in the sense that it's easier to access and that it's simpler, right? But as far as the quality of stories that you can tell, it's amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You can tell fantastic stories with it. The simplification that they did, even though I prefer, I like Wraith better.
I do too.
I like Wraith better, but Wraith is still difficult to present to people.
It is.
You have to get them over. Yes, there's a game when you're dead. You have to get them into this whole society and introduce it to them slowly over time. And the game does not do a good job telling the game master that that's what they need to do. And what Orpheus does that Wraith doesn't is essentially you can boil Orpheus down to you are inheritors of the spirit of Charon, the Lord of Death, who is stopping the sixth great or the seventh great, sixth or seventh, whichever it is.
Seventh is the one.
Seventh great maelstrom from destroying the world.
Yeah,
that's the game. But rather than going, oh yeah, by the way, you're the inheritor of the giant, super ferryman Lord of the Death Reaper, who's not a bad guy, they slowly introduce you to it. They go, no, you're ghost detectives. You get what ghosts are, right? Yeah, okay. You get what detectives are, right? Yeah, okay. And then they slowly ease you into that world. And in that sense, it's fucking brilliant, and it's super well done. And you can take any old random, even non-gamer, and have them relate to it in a much easier way than you would with Wraith.
Okay.
So
because
to
be truthful, as you mentioned, it's even veteran White Wolf players still are a bit leery of Wraith because it is hard to get your head around it.
Yeah, it is.
There's some now. If you really want a good overview of what Stygia is about, the Shadowlands and all the other cool shit, they did a novel. It's called Dark Kingdoms.
That novel's awesome.
It is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You get introduced to the Black Spiral Dancers.
Mm-hmm.
You get introduced to all kinds of cool shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that about that particular book. It was better written than some of the stuff that I have read as far as White Wolf fiction.
Yeah, some of it's pretty bad.
Although somebody mentioned the other day, I guess in the old World of Darkness group, is they finally got the last two novels for Mummy, the Scarab Chronicles or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard some really good stories about that particular trilogy. That as much as I love Mummy, and I do, I love me some Mummy.
Mummy's great.
They are OP, but I love them.
Yeah. Who cares? You don't mix them. Who gives a shit? You know?
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. Oddly enough, mummies can cross over into vampire games fairly easily.
I just mean as far as the player base.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, that's really where you run into problems with mixing White Wolf games. It's not introducing plot elements from other stories or other game lines into your game. It's when you start trying to cross the player base over.
Okay. I get you.
Because a 300-point werewolf is going to do a lot more damage than a 300-point vampire.
Yeah, it's going to completely change the game.
You know. And
like,
all right, well, what do I do now? I just sit here while this guy does this thing. You know, the tone is all different, but you know, I've never had any problems. Like, quite frequently when I'm doing vampire games, I have like canon werewolf stuff in there. Even if I tell people I don't do canon werewolf stuff, I still throw it in because it's easy to implement. It's easy to get going because you're controlling all the aspects of how they relate to the werewolves, and you don't have like, you know, some 13-year-old kid that's like, I roll my 13 dice to aggravate and damage you, you know, to one of the other players, you know.
Adam says he has the triglyph tattoo for the Black Spirals.
Ugh. Hates his life, I guess.
Well, no,
I'm just kidding.
Eric's got the Bali tattoo, so...
I was there when he got that tattoo.
I know you were, dude.
And I'm going to get my Tremere
That's
tattoo.
why I said this is a trip, dude.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about getting it's been long enough and I haven't got a nerd tattoo. I was thinking about getting the old revised Ankh on my shoulder here pretty soon. And then after that I was going to do the first edition Wraith lock. The lock off.
I already have one nerd tattoo. It's my name in Guaul.
Oh yeah.
Then I have the Empire symbol on my wrist.
Of course, because the Empire may have been bad, but they always had the coolest.
It's just interesting as hell, dude. I don't care.
I got a question for you, Eric. Are you aware that my entire lower left arm is tattooed?
Yeah, you told me about it, man.
Okay, I didn't know if I did.
You kept asking me questions whenever you're about to get it.
Yeah, because I mean.
So, if you guys in the channel, not you guys, but those guys, if you got any last minute questions, I suggest you get them in now. All right, I like to just go random for the last 10 minutes of the show, and I actually came up with a good question. If you were to pick a movie that would give you an idea of how Orpheus works, which one would it be?
Oh, that's hard.
I mean, are we looking like 13 Ghosts or the House on Haunted Hill?
Yeah, that's really hard. Because very few movies have the whole, like, ghost apocalypse thing going on. Right? Like, where you got, like, this whole, like, vein of, like, super evil ghosts versus regular ghosts. And I'm also not a huge connoisseur of ghost movies, ironically enough. I'm kind of balls up. I say one thing that does come to mind, especially earlier in your game, if you are running an Orpheus game and you want some inspiration for things to do earlier in your game, Dollhouse.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, even though it came out later, Dollhouse is amazing because it's got the whole shadowy organization. It's got you being thrust into a bunch of different types of situations, or the main character being in these various different situations, which the ghost thing totally leans itself to. Oh, you're dealing with an emotional thing. You're dealing with an action thing. You're dealing with a horror thing. And I think there would be some good inspiration there. I'd have to get back with you, unfortunately, for the movie.
Okay.
That would represent, especially with ghost stuff in it, because you really need the whole, good ghosts versus bad ghosts with the connection of, normal humans being able to, either interact with ghosts or do ghost stuff, which I don't think has ever...
Okay, wait a minute. I just think I've remembered one. Ricky Gervais. I'm trying to remember. Ghost Town. He has the near-death experience, and then he can see ghosts because he died during a tooth extraction or something, as I remember. Not sure where that would rank as far as the Four Horsemen, but. Anyway, we've got a couple more tattooed. Looks like New Wave's got a whole bunch of them. She didn't list many, but she's got the Shadow Lords, and then Adam apparently has a sleeve of the Hedge from Changeling.
There you go.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, I know, right? I think, to be perfectly honest, I think tattoos are cool. I don't want full sleeves. I don't want, I won't get one anywhere that you can see it, in case I need to go to somebody's funeral or something. I don't want to offend nobody.
I think for me, though, I kind of shy, I like tattoos, but at the same time, I kind of shy away from them. And it's simply a cost thing, because I'm I just don't want to put that much money into something that I'm just going to look at.
Yeah, that's what Adam says. That Hedge was super expensive.
Yeah, it's it's so much money, and then oh wait, that looks cool, and I'm just not as visually, inspired as I guess other people are. You tell me a good story and I hear something, boy, I'll put some money into that.
There you go.
My gaming collection, is out of control.
Yeah. Speaking of which, for you guys in the channel, we've got a Patreon now. So if you want to help support the show, get us, some new mics and stuff, both Eric and I would be most grateful. And what we're also trying to accomplish here is, going to some of these cons and or the Grand Masquerade and then doing a show from there, which would be way too much fun.
Are any of you guys coming to the night in question?
No, can't do it, man. But the guys involved have been on the show a couple of times now.
Yeah, they have.
They've had way too much fun, apparently, too. So, are you two guys enjoying this?
Yeah. I'm having fun. Yeah.
All right, good. That's what we shoot for here. Is that if we can impart some good information, great. But I want my guests to have fun, and I don't want it to come across as like we're grilling them on shit. So we just do this whole organic flow of conversation after Eric throws the first question. Okay, here we go. We've got a listing.
Oh, movies, man. I was going to say, man,
Okay.
I thought of two movies that would be great for Orpheus.
Okay.
The Frighteners.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And White Noise.
I don't know that one.
White Noise is a movie with Michael Keaton where his wife dies, and he comes across a guy who's been who does the EVP stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing it with videotape, and they keep stumbling onto darker and darker stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
I'll put that on my watch list. I'm going to check that one out.
Now, New Wave says she's got the Followers of Set, Planglyph, the Gangrel. Hold on, my browser.
Maquette.
There we go. The Maquette, from Requiem, Stormlords, and Forsaken. So you go, girl. You got all the tattoos.
Got it covered.
Yeah. She seems to. This girl has been one of our avid listeners for well over a year now.
Hooray.
And she enjoys this. At least I hope she does. And we keep trying every so often to get her on the show, but she's a bit shy.
Nothing wrong with that.
Most folks, when I say, "Hey, you want to be on the show?" they jump at it.
Yeah.
I know I did.
Yeah, see? So,
You busy? No.
Adam says she wins.
That's how I started coming on the show anyway.
It was.
Message me and go, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm getting out of rehearsal. Be on our show, okay?" Hold on.
Hold on.
Let me call you guys on the way home.
By the way, about the Patreon, first 5 people who sign up get their own show. So think about it. You don't have to be on the show, but you will have to give us a good subject that we can do 2 hours with. And our first patron, I'm wondering why she didn't come in tonight. Oh, that's right. She's sick. I forgot that. She was not feeling well at all yesterday. So that's probably where she is. I hope she gets well soon. So, all right, we got about 4 minutes left. So, if you have any last minute stuff, Alan, Ken, I suggest getting in.
I'll pose this out there, Eric.
All right.
If anyone out wants to come down to the Eastern Seaboard for any kind of World of Darkness related things, let me know. I can give you a couch to crash on.
Oh, that's always awesome.
And Eric, if you ever make it this way, I'll get a matching Giovanni tattoo with you.
Oh, no doubt.
Okay, it's on, dude.
And I'll pay for it.
It's on.
And
You know it's on, man.
where on the Eastern Seaboard are you? Just
Boston.
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 So is my buddy Chris Busby. So
okay.
they're both over there.
I've never been to Boston.
Right on.
Get the damn lobsters.
Flavia, go pack the
Wicked
cat.
snot.
I got something totally random that's an idea for another show.
Okay.
Non-World of Darkness games that make your World of Darkness game better.
Well, okay.
I would just ask the question, but we only have 4 minutes left. So.
Well, no, sometimes we go.
But it's worth a
over
whole
the-
show, I think.
So yeah, and I'm typing it down now. Other games, and that should be enough. I think I'll remember that. I've wanted to do a show on a vampire show, since it seems to be one of the more popular subjects. Is do a whole show on the disciplines. And there are a bunch. I didn't know there were this many disciplines.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, Obia was the only one. Not Obia. I forget which one. I posted it in the old channel, or the old group, and it was like, what is the least used discipline? And it turned out to be, I don't want to say Obia. I want to say Bardo. That's what it was.
Bardo.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that nobody ever used. And I can't even remember what clan that's the clan.
Bardo is that's a Salot and
okay. I thought they had Obia, but okay. Salubri, yeah.
I thought they did Bardo too.
I would have thought the ones that used the Kismet would have had the least used power.
Huh. Oh, looks like Adam wants a Cyberpunk WOD crossover. I keep saying that because I want to put dermal plating and bone blades on my Archon character.
Demon Hunter X, man. That's where you got all that shit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Demon Hunter X. No, I'm sorry. Bardo is the children of Osiris.
That's right.
That's right.
I couldn't actually remember.
Well, to kick off the Patreon thing, I went ahead and did the Patreon for $20 a month. So.
Oh, dude, that was awesome. So, yep, you get your own show. What do you want?
I will talk about that later.
Okay, you get up with me, man. We will make it happen, and we'll even. And I have a feeling you're going to want to be in on that show. So we're going to have to find somebody else to go. Up against you. Always like this formula that I use for the show. I learned from Doug Benson. Do you know who Doug Benson is?
Mm-mm.
He's the guy who did the movie Super High Me.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
He's
okay.
also a stand-up comic. And he does a show on YouTube called Getting Doug with High.
Oh, okay.
It's where he brings in all these stand-up comics, gets them stoned, and then they have this weird little organic conversation.
Right.
And it works. It works like a charm. Now,
The kind of-
not
the kind
all
of
of us are high, but
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that most gamers, you don't have to get them high to just get them running their mouths
Exactly.
about role-playing games for
Here,
hours.
throw some
Yeah,
Mountain Dew
dude.
down your throat. Let's go.
Yeah. There you go.
well, there's been also some interesting conversation about whether or not you should allow drinking and smoking at tabletop games.
Yeah, that's kind of a mixed bag in my experience.
Well, it can derail the game pretty well because somebody passes out.
Right.
We've
Then
had
there's
that problem when I was playing D&D. We had a guy who would show up with a big ass bottle of Kessler. He'd get about a third of the way into it, and then he puts his head down on his character sheet and goes to sleep.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean,
So, but pot, on the other hand, doesn't tend to do that to you, and it actually can help out with what's it called? I call it creative RPing, because you're liable to do and say just off the wall shit in general,
Yeah.
and it can be fun, especially if you're playing a Malky,
mm,
or if you want to go
or
to Mage.
Ravnos.
Yeah, or if you want to go to Mage, the Cult of Ecstasy, always fun,
Mm-hmm.
always.
Ravnos, who's like a complete beach bum kind of dude.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, what's up, dude? Come
You
on,
could-
give me a
you could
quarter.
also-
Come on,
you
man.
could-
What's
you
up, dude? Come on, give me a quarter, man. Come on. All right.
So
Let me
you
show you a
could-
card trick.
Yeah, I have a card.
You could pitch that as a gang growl as well. In my
That sounds awesome. I think that sounds great.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, you people! I love it. I do. I love it.
What do you mean by you people?
Okay, we people.
What are you trying to say, man? Are you for the herb or not, man?
Oh, well, absolutely. I'm planning to smoke my face off as soon as we get off the air. See, that's the other thing. Is it was Alan who asked about language during the show, and I was like, as long as I
Salty
don't ever
language.
monetize.
I did not say salty, by the way.
Okay, it wasn't salt.
I did not say salty.
Well, what
I
was
said,
it?
can I curse like a sailor or
Okay,
not?
that's right. So I knew it was something to do with the ocean. I just couldn't remember what.
Can I be a salty sailor or not?
It says, can I curse like a sailor or not? That was my question.
Hold on, we've got one more from New Wave before we bail for the. Yes, we've got some. We did an end time show, but
That was last show, wasn't it?
yeah, well, no, I don't think it was last show, was it?
Was-
Hang on, got to pull
It
up
wasn't
the
that long ago.
pull up the master list.
Oh,
Yeah, it was sure as hell.
yeah.
It was Molly and Sarah were in on that as a double lady episode. Those don't happen very often with us, but
No.
they're fun. Molly
amazing
learned
thing
quite a
with
bit
them.
that night, didn't she?
Yep, sure did.
You know what I think we should do for the show?
What's that?
Just take turns telling stories.
I've done that.
Once upon a time.
That's actually been some really fun stuff. Now, granted, we got to come up with 2 hours of it, which
Oh.
can be a bit harder to do.
You let me run. That's a different story.
Okay, since, well, like I said, you get your own.
Well, I'm just saying, there's lots of stories about Eric's games that are
Oh,
that are
God.
out there.
I could tell a couple. He could probably tell some.
I can too.
embarrassing stories.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with my testiculars coming out of my G-string.
Oh,
Yep.
jeez.
That was great.
Yeah, I remember that.
It wasn't great for you guys, but it was hilarious.
It was hilarious.
Or-
I was laughing my ass off.
Eric, did I ever tell you about the time that Headley got me to accidentally involve a normie?
What?
Like a normal? Like, 'cause we were at the
okay.
college.
Muggle,
yeah.
whatever.
We were doing Mind's Eye Theater, and he was pointing at one person, and I mistook who he was pointing to, and they knew each other really well, and like so he somehow convinced much younger me to use his casual catchphrase that whenever he like finds a woman attractive, he would say, "I'd pee in her butt."
Oh no!
And I said this to a person that was working at the college.
Oh no!
And she looked at me and went, "What? Who are you?" And I'm like, "Are you not Christina?" And she's like, "No." And I'm like, "Then I involved a person that didn't need to be involved. I'm sorry." And fucking
This is an
18-year-old
inside
me
joke.
was like, just head down, walk away.
I'm not responsible for that.
No, you were not. But
By the way, we've gotten another comment from the Peanut Gallery. Mage sounds more like an LSD kind of game. I feel it.
no.
I feel it.
Mage is more of an
Ayahuasca.
Excedrin kind of game
Right?
for the
Yeah,
ST.
Yes.
That's what that shit is. But
So,
no.
all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and call it for the night. I want to thank our guests and also our friends in the channel. You guys are awesome. We really appreciate y'all being here for the live show. It really helps with the questions and comments because some of these are just classic, dude. I love this shit. And now the cool thing is YouTube runs that chat. If you watch the video later on,
Oh yeah.
it runs the chat in real time about,
Oh, cool.
exactly where in the show it was where it was commented.
Nice.
How cool is that?
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
that's what we're going to do. We will be back in 2 weeks. I think we're going to do the Pentex show because the other one does not seem to be working yet. So I was going to try and speculate, but that's cool. I'll get up with Donnie and who was it Ken? You
Yeah.
the werewolf guy?
Yeah,
Okay. You want to come back in 2 weeks?
sure.
All right, we got you then. It'll be October 9th. And so we're going to have you back for that, and we're going to talk shit.
All right.
This is fun. I love doing this. And
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
you're more than welcome. You are more than welcome, and you're always welcome back. So if it comes down, whatever shit, Ken, you've already got your own show. So, so we're gonna get with you after the show, or actually most likely a little bit later on, and we'll see what we can schedule. We'll have an opening for October 23rd or November 6th or November 20th. It'll be whatever your schedule's like. So
Sure.
we want to make sure that you are, available for your show.
I run my own business, so I'm available when I want to be. generally.
All right.
So,
So everybody, say goodnight, guys.
night.
Good night.
Good night.